Hey YouTube, welcome to another video here at Tranquility Base. In today's one, we're going to be looking at this 19-year-old Renault dad bus. I don't know what it's called. This is actually the mother-in-law's car. Best, it generally sees a scratch and shine and a bit of tea-cut every now and then. So I thought it'd be a nice treat just to get it picked up, cleaned up, and then delivered back to her in a much more presentable state. We're going to be using the Dmax range of products for this particular video, so if you're interested in our thoughts and review on these, that's going to come at the end of this video, so be sure to stick with us to the end if you're interested in that. If not, sit back, enjoy the process. Let's begin. Thank you, me in the kitchen. So as I said, this is the mother-in-law's Renault Megane Scenic dad bus, and it's in desperate need. We're going to walk around just to inspect the situation first, and it's pretty much what you'd expect from a car that doesn't have a regular upkeep schedule. So on initial looks, we're seeing a lot of dirt and mud which has been flung up the side of the car, but on top of that, a general film on everything. The wheels and the paintwork, particularly on the roof and the bonnet, the flat areas, is quite dirty. The glass has quite a bit of staining and water spotting, and there's mould and dust and debris in virtually every nook and cranny you can get into, so seals and panel gaps on this one I'll have to pay a bit of extra attention to as well. First part of our process, as always, we're going to start on the wheels, and what I'm going to do first is apply some fallout remover neat to a dry wheel. This is a wasteful way to use the product, we've always said that. However, it does achieve two things. One, it makes us look cool to the Instagram crowd, and two, it allows us to see the relative potency of the fallout remover. Fallout removers in use become acidic, so although they may all say pH neutral in the bottle, it's just a bit of clever chemistry. What happens during the reaction is they become more acidic, and this is going to show just how strong they are when we apply it to a dirty and dry wheel, given how much we can just rinse off with a pressure washer in a second. Now that that's done, we're going to stop prattling about and we're going to hit a wheel and tyre properly. So we're going to start with rinsing away all of the loose dirt and debris, and then a liberal application of the all-purpose cleaner. And the goal here is three areas, so always to keep in mind: wheel, tyre and arch. So the all-purpose cleaner and brushes we're going to use to take care of the tyres and the arches. And then on the actual wheel face, generally a selection mitt, brushes and so on, we're going to use depending on the goal of the particular clean. On this one, goal for the wheels was just to get the faces up to a better standard. The wheel barrels were particularly corroded, and cleaning past the faces was a bit of a pointless task, so we didn't really get into that. But at face value, we wanted them to look clean, we wanted them to look smart, and that's what we really focused on. Once we've scrubbed the tyres through, we'll rinse everything off, and then we'll go at it with the fallout remover. This is going to really get into now the embedded contaminants and dissolve those. We're going to help it along with a brush just to really get it into those areas, and then rinse it away and see how we look. On inspection, you're going to see that there's still some staining, some black areas, and to give credit to the product, some of that may well be tar. But just to give a fair balance as to what it didn't fetch off, we're also going to hit it with a non-Dmax product, which is a very strong acid cleaner, and then you're going to see in the second shot how clean it could be. Now that those are done, we're going to move on to the pre-wash stage. So Michael's now just going to give the car a pre-rinse down and then a full coating of the snow foam, and then we'll guide it with some brushes on the tight work. Whilst we snow foam, we're going to take you to a musical interlude just to give my voice a bit of a break. Great, so now that that's done and the snow foam is dwelling in situ, we're going to go around with the all-purpose cleaner and some soft brushes, and we're going to agitate the dirt out of the tight work. So we're going to work around badges, we're going to work around door handles, seals, anywhere where dust and dirt and mold can accumulate. We want to use this particular stage to disturb that out of there so we can get rid of a lot of it in the rinse of the snow foam. Important to just keep observations of where you are during the wash process. So now that we're rinsing the snow foam down, we can see that there's a lot of tar deposits down the side and the lower edges of the car. So something to make a note of further on down the line of this clean, that we deal with those before we move on to the final finish with the wax. Now we're mixing up a shampoo solution, and then Michael and I are going to work around the car generally in a relative top to bottom pattern. We're going to use some wash mitts and what's called the 2-bucket method. That's where we're going to use a wash solution in one bucket, so that's our foamy sudsy water there, and then we're going to have a secondary bucket which is just plain water to rinse the dirt out of the mitt every time we've cleaned a panel, just to make sure that we're not taking a very dirty mitt that gets progressively more dirty around each panel of the car. This one. And although this was never part of the original plan, the headlights were looking quite faded, and to be fair, it is an older car. So in the interests of safety, Michael just gave them a good polish through just to bring a bit of clarity back, which is going to help the lights shine that bit brighter down the road as winter approaches. And now we're all washed and dried, we're going to move on to the waxing stage, so enjoy this little montage whilst we do that.
Generation, I've done half of the thingy now, so.
Now we're all waxed, you can see we are starting to really get a good glossy finish, particularly compared to how we started with this car. The thing that's really going to set it off and make it pop, however, is clean glass, well-dressed plastics and tyres that aren't brown. So the next stage for Michael and I is to do that. First is the trim, so we're going to use the trim dressing, and this is going to take the faded grey plastics to a nice dressed, more showroom, deeper black. We're going to make sure that all the seals around the windows and edges are dealt with too, just for the same reason.
I'd be happy with that finish. Try to tie that cream on it next.
I think we'll do your side, one with this and one with the tyre dressing.
That's what I'm thinking. I wonder how the blue plastic will take that, those elastics.
And now we move on to the tyres. With these, like the trim, these can really set off a finished car or make it look still dirty. So we want to make sure we get a good amount of dressing into these tyres, really try and revive them and bring them back. We're anticipating that they're probably going to be relatively absorbent and that we're going to have to use quite a large amount of the dressing, which is quite typical when tyres are quite neglected. Sometimes they need multiple coats, so we'll bear that in mind and we'll make sure that they look dressed for the finished shots. So now that the tyres are dressed and the trim has been restored, we're just going to give a quick detailer wipe down and then on to the finished shots. We hope you've enjoyed watching this process today, and if you're interested in our thoughts on the products used, then we're going to go through those after the finished shot section. So stick around for the ending just to see what Michael and I thought of the Dmax range used in this video. So I hope you enjoyed that video. That was the Dmax range, but what did we think about it? Of course, both Michael and I had a little bit of a chat, we took notes, and at the end it's left to me to try and collate our thoughts and put them together into something that makes some sense. So let's hit all these products one at a time. So snow foam first. The Dmax snow foam on this one actually did a pretty good job. Its cleaning ability was pretty good on what was a very dirty test bed. The main flaws that we had between Michael and I, we agreed, number one, the dwell time wasn't particularly long. It's a relatively thick foam, but it's not a thick and clingy foam. It does run down the panel. So if you're after something that's going to sit for 10-15 minutes while you do the tight work, this probably isn't going to be the one. That said, if you do like to get things moving in a hurry and you don't want your driveway white for the next 3 hours, it's not a bad shout. The product did work relatively well. The major flaw with it is in its instructions. Simply put, the instructions on the back are wanting. It doesn't tell you what dilution ratio, what you should be trying to achieve. So really it is a big miss for the guys at Dmax and something that does need to be straightened up. Shampoo next. The shampoo on this one, I really liked. Michael agreed with me on this one. It was very sudsy and you got a lot of suds to panel transfer. Cleaning power on it was good. I'd say it's a good value for money. Pretty good, reasonable dilution ratio on this one. So yeah, this one gets a thumbs up from us. So next is the all-purpose cleaner. This one actually came ready to use. That is to say, it comes in its own bottle with a trigger spray ready to go, not to be diluted down. It's not to say that you can't dilute it, but ready-to-use products like this, like I said in the previous video, for me generally show a really poor value for money option.
Stop. Sorry to butt in. You've just said that it's RTU, but it does say can be used 5:1 for general cleaning and up to 20:1 for light soiling. Admittedly, what we were using it for the heavy soiling, it does say to use neat, but I just thought I should point out your mistake because it's fun to do that. Anyway, carry on. No need to acknowledge your mistake. Just crack right on with the video. Spot on.
If you have a look at the test bed that we were using, and as you saw in the video, this car is neglected. And although it does get the occasional wash, things like cleaning the tyre walls out, I don't think it's ever really happened to this. So it was a pretty aggressive test for any all-purpose cleaner. This one, in this particular instance, did come up short. It took quite a few hits on the tyres to get them anywhere near remotely clean. So in that respect, I think this could do with being stronger. The iron remover was actually refreshing in that it was quite liquidy. There's a current trend for these iron removers to be more gel-based, which, although it does improve the cling time, tends to make for a poorer spray pattern and more work when you're trying to dispense a lot of them. This one being a little bit more fluid actually was a nice change from some of the ones recently used. The product itself, it did work. We got a reasonable reaction. Used on the dirty wheel, it actually did quite a good job of cleaning, and used on the clean wheel, it did search out and do a good job at dissolving the contaminants that were still on there. I was puzzled as to why it's in a completely different bottle to the rest of the range, and that is to say that the whole range comes in plastic bottles. This comes in an aluminium one. Now the reason that I raised that is these are all sat on the shelf out of direct sunlight whilst I've been waiting to get around to reviewing them, and I don't know whether it's to do with the fact it's an aluminium bottle, but this particular one leaked, and it actually leaked out the top. So I don't know if it's getting too warm and then the product itself is expanding in some way, trying to find a way to vent itself out, which it wasn't able to do in that aluminium bottle, but it is a shame. Tried to leave it in there. You can see if you look closely on those parts of the videos, there's the white streaks down the side of the bottle where it's leaked out and then dried, which is unfortunate for the product. Doesn't lessen the fact that it was a relatively capable product. It's just a shame that Dmax have decided to use that alternative bottling option. And then we have the trim dressing. The trim dressing on this one comes in a wax pot. It's nice in that you can scoop a reasonable amount instead of dispensing it from the bottle. It actually does a really good job at refinishing and darkening the plastics, and again, neglected on this car they were, and this one really stood up to the challenge. It is quite an oily product, and the instructions say that you need to apply it, give it 10 minutes to dry, and then buff off the residue. It's probably the only detail about it that I didn't like, particularly when there's some on the market that are pretty much wipe and buff products. This one just needed a little bit more time to penetrate, but hopefully that's going to translate into a good amount of durability, and the finish on this we really liked. Tyre dressing next. The tyre dressing, Michael and I both actually really liked. The finish on it was good. It darkened the tyres down, gave them a relatively clean and dressed look. Hopefully durability stands up pretty well, but it was still on there at the end of filming. When I saw the car a couple of days later, this still looked pretty good. So all round on this one, big thumbs up on the tyre dressing. The wax itself, as you guys all know, I'm a big wax fanatic here at TBD. Let me deal with first the negatives. The wax in the pot looks atrocious. You can see in the video there's a big scoop. What I've done is put the finger in the pot, scoop through it just to see it split all the way down, or if it was just the consistency. And although there was some splitting, you could see some oil rising to the top of that. I think it's just generally quite a soft wax. It could probably do with just being in a bottle, in all fairness. When you get something of that consistency, having it in the pot where it's going to move about, it just creates a horrendous visual appeal. That said, it was actually a really nice product to use. It went on really well. I think thanks in no part to the fact it's very fluid and very oily. It cured off nicely in a reasonable amount of time. It indicated that to you, and it was a joy to remove. So the whole process past the visual side of things was lovely. And the finish itself actually I really liked. It gave a good darkening depth to the paint. And all round for me ticks so many boxes. It's just a shame that presentation wise in the pot it comes up a bit wanting. But if that's not really important to you and you do want something that's easy to use, affordable, and leaves a nice finish, then it's worth consider. The quick detailer, I'm sorry to say, I didn't try. Michael tried it on the day just whilst I was wrapping up the filming shots. So Michael said that it was nice. It went on relatively easy, straightforward, and he did make a particular note that the water behaviour was fantastic. So quick detailer on this one, relatively straightforward, more traditional quick detailer, particularly as we seem to be venturing into ceramic this and you know, spray wax that. This one was just a bit of a nice refreshing wipe down at the end of all the process, just to give everything that final spruce up, and with an added benefit that the water behaviour on it was good. So what did I think to Dmax in general? So obviously there are some winners in this and there are some losers. Losers is a horrible word. So there are some good and there's some not so good. Of course, the all-purpose cleaner just simply wasn't strong enough and can be blown out of the water by quite a few out there. The trim dressing, the tire dressing, the wax, you know, there's things in there to rate and there's things in there that need improvement. Generally speaking, the only other thought that I had coming away from this range other than what's in the bottle is what's on the bottle. And by that I mean that the labels on these are relatively pixelated. There are double spaces in some of the instructions. There are some instructions like the snow foam just missing, just guess. If Dmax iron all of that out, then I think maybe then they'll be on to a winner in some of these products. Other than that, if you do choose to scoop some of them up, know that there are some good ones in this range. You know, the wax, for example, the finish is nice. The quick detailer, Michael liked, the shampoo and the trim dressing. So scoop some up, have a go. They're not expensive, which again, to their credit, is a good thing. And if you use them, put some pictures online, tag me in them. Always interested in your discussion and in what you think after you've seen the review. But that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Stick around, thumbs it up, comment, all of that. It all helps this to grow. Grateful for all of them, as it all does help this thing to progress. And see you soon. Stay safe. Bye bye.